We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is War Cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence. Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry. Galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry. Cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke.
Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. All rights belong to their respective owners.
This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is war cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
This is war cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is war cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence. Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is war cry. Police brutality. Hands up. Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is war cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is war cry. Galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in you. This is war cry. Cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is war cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is war cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is war cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is war cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is war cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is war cry. HBCUs under attack. This is war cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is war cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is war cry. Oh, let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is war cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is war cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is war cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
Ella Montgomery, we can't hear you.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Johnson. I was just talking. I was saying sometimes I think we should call this show War Cry for Our Democracy, because our democracy is being taken away. Our democracy. But let me tell you something. I renamed it. We are not going back to Egypt. We're not going back under Pharaoh's democracy. We're fighting now like we've never fought before. So we've got a show for you. We're not Christ. We're not politically correct, but we're Christ correct. I've got some exciting guests. Thank you for joining our community today. Hey, tell your neighbors, your friends that if you're looking for an urban radio station that's going to tell the truth, not somebody else's truth, not Donald Trump's. Oh, not DeSantis. Oh, well, let me just leave it alone. But the truth. All right, bring the guest on. Oh, Dr. O, Dr. O, Dr. O. You know, I've been trying to get you and Dr. Edward Lee Johnson on together for years. Now you're going to meet Dr. Edward Lee Johnson and Dr. Payne. I've been wanting this group of bad brothers. You know, y'all some bad brothers. You know that, right?
Yeah, we do.
But you know what? This, well, excuse me, this is a bad sister too. All right. So we want to jump right in. Dr. O, introduce yourself. Then we want Dr. Payne. Then we're going to go to Dr. Edward Lee Johnson and Dr. Gregory Johnson. We're going to jump into the show. Are y'all scared? Are you scared? Are you scared?
We're never scared. We're
Oh,
bad.
hey, Dr. O. You what? What you say, Dr. O?
We're bad brothers.
You're bad brothers, and you're going to stand up and fight for our children. Dr. O, give us a little bit of background about yourself.
Praise God. Blessings to you, host Elder Montgomery, and all these distinguished brothers. I'm Dr. Onaje Mawid. Wow. I'm here to say that this is Black August, so I don't want to leave this place without bringing to everyone's attention. Black August is the continuation and recognition of the resistance that Africans have always participated in, psychologically, physically, militarily, against our captive and against our oppression. So my work is connected to how do we heal ourselves, understanding historical trauma, understanding epigenetics, the science of epigenetics, and then putting that into practice. So I'm the co-chair of NCOBRA, is Health Commission, which is the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. And this campaign is called Millions for Mutulu. For those of you who don't know Mutulu Shakur, you would want to know who he is and understand his phenomenal contribution to public health. He was an acupuncturist that alleviated opioid addiction in the Bronx, and then went on to create a movement to not only assist our people in the quest for Black health self-determination, but to assist our people in the quest of political self-help, self-determination. So that's a little bit about me, a little bit of my work, and it's an honor to be with your distinguished guest today. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dr. Edward Lee Johnson, you come in and tell us a little bit about you and your work.
Good morning, Valerie, and the rest of the panelists today. It's certainly a pleasure being with you guys. I am a second generation Pentecostal preacher, born and raised in the Church of God in Christ. And I got saved at the age of 19. I left home as a buck wild teenager for the military. Got radically saved a year and a half later in El Paso, Texas, 50 years ago. And I've been on a track now for 50 years pursuing the kingdom of God. And when I say the kingdom of God, I'm talking about the government of heaven, the gospel that was brought to us from Christ, that the body of Christ should be embracing so that we can take that gospel and transform our lives. In fact, I'm in the middle of writing another book now called Christ-Centered Kingdom Living. And I teach people that we're Christ-centered first. So we got to get this word. And as Hosea 4:6 says, my people are destroyed because they lack knowledge. And that's the fundamental problem with us today. We got to get this knowledge back. The Christianity that we've been sold has been some good, but at this point, it's detrimental because we got to get the purity of it. We've gotten the white supremacy version of it. We got to get the purity of it. We got to get back to our book so we can know who we are. This is our identity. This right here, our Bible. This is our identity. We got to get it back. So,
and tell us a little bit about the book you wrote before you wrote the one that you're writing now, the one that speaks about our heritage and who we are and when we came all the way from Egypt into freedom.
You talking about this one or These Were God's People?
No, the autopsy. That one in your hand.
The autopsy of slavery. This right here. In fact, Elizabeth, I'm going to be featured at the International African American Museum, a brand new museum, less than 3 months old, I'm going to be featured there on October the 26th, the Thursday evening at 6:30 to do a scholarly review of this book. And in this book, let me just go directly to it. I'm teaching you 5 things that every reader needs to get when they pick this book up. Hear me clearly. Number 1, chattel slavery, which was practiced in America, does not exist in the Bible, period. So everything that we have learned about slavery in America is a bastardized version of what's in the scriptures. The Israelites practiced in a humane culture. They did not teach chattel slavery. That's a European construct. And we don't understand it because, again, we have not been able to go back and dissect the scriptures. That's the whole purpose for the autopsy. So chattel slavery was not practiced in the Bible, which was practiced in America. So nothing about what took place in America with Black people has anything to do with the Bible. That's one.
Okay, now we're gonna go a little bit farther into the book, but let me just get the panels introduced. Dr. Payne, tell us a little bit about your work, and then we'll go back.
Well, grace and peace be unto you from God our Father. I just want to thank God that I'm able to be with you, Elder Montgomery, and all the distinguished ministers and book writers. I just appreciate your good work. What we're trying to do right now is go into the streets, let people know what's going on, instead of standing behind the church walls. With slavery and all these different things that's going on, the church is just sitting back doing nothing about it. We have to do something about it. And that's why I'm so glad that my brother wrote that book and everything and just enlighten us, because you know what it is, because we get the Bible and that's it, but we don't know anything else. And there's a lot more things that we have to know, but we got to teach our young people and we got to get on the move. Things that's happening for a reason. It's for us to get on the move, so us to start working. If we don't start working and start teaching our young people and start doing anything and be active, they're going to take over. And they're trying to put us right now. They're trying, but they're not going to.
Pastor Payne, I'm sorry, you are so right in what you're saying. That's why we're trying to push the book. We're trying to push the book and get the book into everybody's hand, because it gives us an upfront look at who we are and who we didn't teach that we were. And you know something, Dr. Johnson, I'm just going to put him, Dr. Everly Johnson, is free to come out and give lectures and begin to teach. And matter of fact, he has a Zoom that he's teaching out of South Carolina. Is that right, South Carolina? Every week that we can join in here. And I thank God for technology. I think I lost Dr. Gregory Johnson. Is he here? Okay, he'll be joining us back again. Because you know what, guys? We got some real problems. Yes. We got some real problems. They want to take us back. Now, we've did so many good things, but guess what? They want to take us back. And how do they want to do that? They want to hit us where it hurts. They want to hit us in the educational pocket. They want to stop teaching our kids Black history. They want to stamp us out, and we cannot allow them to do that. We've got to be more aggressive. We got to take it to the street. We got to do some boycotts. We got to write some letters, but we cannot let them do to our children what we didn't let them do to us. Dr. Gregory is back. Dr. Gregory, introduce yourself, and then we'll jump right into the show. I'm not going back.
Amen. Amen.
Dr. Gregory, introduce yourself to us.
Good morning. I'm calling you from Bronx, New York City.
Good morning.
I am a site.
We'll have there's some connection problems, Dr. Gregory, with your phone. There's some connection problems. Dr. Gregory, with your phone. There's some connection. Dr. Gregory, with your phone. There's some connection.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yes, we can now. Yeah.
Can you hear me now? All right. I'm gonna keep. So I'm gonna keep it short so we can get back. I'm gonna keep it short so we can get into the discussion.
I'm sorry, Dr. Gregory. There's something wrong with your phone. I'm sorry. There's something wrong with your phone. Now we're going to jump right into it. Engineer, let us see the first video. Engineer, let us see the first video. Dr. Gregory, you're going to have to mute your phone because it's giving an echo. Let us go into the first video, engineer. Thank you. Because we want to take a look at what DeSantis is doing.
Florida done it. They are now mandating that schools teach slavery as beneficial. Let's go to the first video.
Do not, for the love of God, tell kids that slavery was beneficial, because I can guarantee you it most certainly was not. Thank you.
Education and civil rights advocates are slamming new Black history teaching standards in Florida. Under the new rules, middle school teachers must now include lessons, quote, how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit.
It's inaccurate, it's ahistorical. Critics are calling this a big step backwards and saying it's a disservice to Florida students because they're not going to learn the full truth and the full accurate truth of American history.
This is insanity on top of insanity. Parents, advocates of all different backgrounds proclaimed this is wrong. Do not do it. None of them listen. Why? Because they are under the direction of a madman named Governor Ron DeSantis. And they themselves are feckless leaders in positions of authority. Here it is.
And I am very concerned by these standards, especially some of the notion that, enslaved people benefited from being enslaved is inaccurate and a scary standard for us to establish in our educational curriculum.
The proposed changes specifically for elementary and middle school students leave out the last 150 years of Black history. Where Black history is taught provides a simplified and sterilized version of history.
The new standards suggest that violence by Black residents in defense of their lives and homes as they were surrounded by armed mobs and flames, and as they were forced to flee their homes or be shot or burned, are to be included as a seemingly equal part of the standard. This is egregious if you understand what happened to the Black residents in Ocoee in 1920.
First of all, I want to say any kind of standards that indicate that slavery benefited Black people is such an insult. My husband is Black, my daughter is Black, and the thought that slavery benefited them, how could that be taught? The fact that the pushback to Reconstruction benefited them, the fact that Jim Crow benefited them. How can we teach that to students? How can someone look at a child with a straight face and say that slavery benefited Black people?
All right, members, we have the motion on the table to approve the two rules. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, nay. Show the amendment approved. Members, we're going to take a 10-minute break. And then
all right, engineer. Let's go back to the panel.
Catch some cool pets.
Let's go back to the panel. Now, I want to ask each and every one of you the question: was slavery beneficial to the slave? Now, the way they're teaching the history is that inside of slavery, the slave actually learned some skills that would help him deal with certain problems in the future. Well, give him some type of vocation, gave him some type of vocation when they were so-called free. Dr. O, what do you think about that? What Florida has already approved. You heard it. It's already approved. They're trying to say that inside of slavery, that even though whites attacked slaves, it was Blacks who attacked slaves too. So they have to tell the whole story, that we actually participated in the demise of our own people. And that's what we haven't been telling. We've been blaming it on the white race and not telling it the right way. Dr. O, what do you think about that ludicrous stuff?
To state, and that is one, Africans were strategically targeted from what is called, at one time was called the Gold Coast. They were strategically targeted because they knew they had skills to bring to this country. We didn't just wake up one day and start being carpenters, wake up one day and start being agriculturists, wake up one day. All the different contributions that we've made to this country was in fact strategically engineered. in terms of our targeting, being targeted. So police targeting it didn't start with just riding down the highway. We were targeted as the people from the places and the skills we had in Africa. Let's start there. So when we came over with those skills, and those skills was put to work. And of course, even we can go and talk about the White House, right? All right, number one. Number two, this dismisses for who knows how many umpteen times the myth that education is apolitical. Sometimes people say, go to school so you can get a good job, as if education is neutral. Education has never been neutral, and it never will be neutral. Education institutions are put in place to continue the regime in which it is serving. So same thing in Ocean Hill, Brownsville, and New York City, and in 1968, when Black people were given a chance to run their own schools, they decided to use a curriculum that was African-centered. They called in the National Guard. So this is not new. But it's a wake-up call to Black people to say, if you don't educate your own children, don't expect that you're going to go to the enemy and get educated for your own liberation. So this is a wake-up call. That's number two. And number three, the question is, what are people doing on the ground in Florida, and how can we on the outside support them in those movements? So we need to have on this show, what is the pushback? What is the resistance? Because this is Black August. And if we do not have a response to the tyranny, as Frederick Douglass says, it must be a struggle. It may be a moral struggle. It may be a physical struggle. It must be a struggle because where there's no struggle, there's no progress. So those are the 3 points I'll just initially introduce in terms of this conversation.
Now, Dr. Owen, panelists, I want to let you know is that Dr. William Allen, a brother, he chaired the curriculum committee for Governor DeSantis. And I've sent an email, and I'm trying to get him to come on this show to voice his opinion on why he would put such a document out saying that slavery was beneficial. Now, I did get a statement saying that we have not looked at slavery from both lenses, that slavery must be looked at, that we participated in slavery also. Now I don't agree with that. And I just simply asked if they could get him to come on the show and state his opinion, because we want to hear his side. He was the former commissioner of the Civil Rights Commission that was appointed by Ronald Reagan. He is a PhD in African Studies. So I want to hear his opinion on how could slavery be beneficial to the slave. They say, well, George Washington Carver benefited from it. He would have never had those skills if he had not been put into slavery. And I said, well, first of all, you got the thing all wrong. George Carver Washington was born after, but we'll let it go. But I want him to come on here. And when he comes, I want to invite your group to come over here and ask him. He's a brother. He can defend himself. I'm sure of that. Dr. Edward Lee Johnson.
Listen, we have to be clear. Every skinfolk ain't kinfolk. Let's no, he's not. If he put in these things. And the fourth thing, if you will, let me say, they are trying to reverse history. In 2001, many of nation states around the world came together in Durban, South Africa, and I was there as a delegate, where slavery was declared a crime against humanity. Now, how are you going to just totally erase the fact that slavery is a crime against humanity and should have always been so? That was said in the Durban Declaration. So all this is just nonsense, but it's nonsense with a purpose. And the purpose is to do what America has always wanted to do, is to subjugate us by subjugating not only our physical body, but subjugate our mind. Thank you. That's the fourth point I wanted to.
And you're absolutely right. The bishops, the Black bishops of the Catholic organization, have prepared a letter, and the letter has been presented to Pope Francis for him to say that slavery was an act of terrorism terrorism, and it was a crime because the Catholic Church participated. They was one of the ringleaders in it. Before it came over to these United States of America, they was already doing slave trade. But I'm not going to go into that. Dr. Edward Lee Johnson, what do you think about what's the benefits of slavery? How can you face your grandchildren letting them know that their history is being erased? Dr. Edward Lee Johnson.
Well, again, my brother's already stated, and I reiterate the fact that let me just read it to you in the book so we'll have it clear. When the Europeans arrived to the shores of West Africa during the 1600s, it was not to capture slaves, but they vilely interrupted with the help of African warlords. And this is why they said black people were capturing other people, simply because European lumped all black people into one bucket. Africa is the most ethnically diverse continent on the planet, and the African warlords weren't capturing fellow Africans. They were capturing those Israelites who had settled on their land and who was banished from Spain during the Spanish Inquisition by the Roman Catholic Church. So those are the people that the Africans were rounding up and sending over here. Okay, and when they got them, they were of a part of a thriving kingdom with a sophisticated system of doctors, lawyers, architects, engineers, goldsmith, blacksmith, horticulturalists, teachers, scholars, fishermen, navigators, sculptors, shipbuilders, metal workers, masons, carpenter, and the list is long. That's what they uprooted, people who had skills, because that's what they used to build this country with. So that's a fallacy that we learned some skill over here. They exploited us because of our skills, and that's what we need to understand. And so when we get this information under our belt, we'll no longer be able to be led down our noses, because all of these degrees, unfortunately, that we're getting in these Christian schools in America is a sanitized version. The Bible says, if you steal a man, you will die. It's a capital punishment. Well, the whole slavery issue falls on its face when it comes to slave stealing, because that was not practiced. So you can't use the Bible in no way to justify slavery. It is a violent act against humanity, one of the most violent in all of human history. And until we understand that, there is no other discussion on this topic other than the fact that it was wicked, and wicked people used the Bible to create it, and we have to know that. And the fact that the Bible...
Well, you know what? When we get Dr. William Allen, who happens to be a brother, thank you, Dr. O, for being straight with me. He may be a brother from another mother. We want to bring him on because he was one of the chair people. There were black people sitting on that group, that project to rewrite the curriculum for Florida. And we want to hear from one of them. He doesn't have to come. We want to hear from one of them. Dr. Payne, what do you think about this? Come on, Dr. Payne.
I agree with my brothers that just got finished saying. Without the lack of wisdom, we have to have wisdom and knowledge. And we got to realize what the enemy is doing right now. We got to put up a struggle and a fight. You see what they did in Florida? They're going to do that to other states. So we have to get together right now and fight against that, and then help our own states, because we got to be careful. They want to erase everything that we got. A lot of Black history is there. A lot of the slavery, what they went through, is not productive.
Wait, hold it for a minute, Dr. Payne. I'm going to give you 2 more minutes. They want to erase Black history, but they want to keep European history. Okay, let's go, Dr. Payne.
And see, our history is so rich and so powerful. They look at us. How do we survive with nothing? That's number one. But we're still struggling. We work together. During slavery time, we worked together. We got free. We had all these things. Why they come to us to build America, the pyramids and everything? We did that. And you got to realize that, but they don't want us to get no credit at all. And see, that's the thing. They don't want us to get no credit. They don't want us to grow. They don't want nothing to do. But without the vision, people will perish. We have to have a vision. We got to work together, and let's start putting this thing together so that we can stomp this out. Because what it is like a cancer. They have a little empty. They got Florida now. Now they're going to get another state. And before you know it, it's blown up. And if we don't stop it,
well, we're gonna go to another state. But my question is, if we know churches in Florida, we need to be combining our resource with those churches in Florida and say, no way. See, we now need to make contact and join and fight about what they're doing in Florida. We can no longer sit back and not. And I want some of those. I want Dr. William Allen to come on. I want somebody who sit on that project to come on. I want to hear from them, because if you're saying that slavery was beneficial, then I want to know, how was it beneficial? First of all, I agree. We were already learned people. We are the authors of mathematics. We are the authors of agriculture. We are already had what they needed. They didn't have the skill set. So are you saying slavery was beneficial to the white man? Maybe yes, but it definitely wasn't beneficial to the slave. Dr. Gregory, just make sure that your speaker doesn't have an echo. Dr. Gregory. Dr. Gregory Johnson.
Good morning.
Dr. Gregory Johnson.
Good morning again. I hope you can hear me. But I will say the panel that we just had talk about this is no more truth that you can find in what we already heard. First of all, we got to look at it this. There is a demonic spirit in America at this time, and that demon feels threatened. They want to survive in the way they've been used to surviving. Now, as the prophet Ezekiel said in his version of the dry bones prophecy, he says, our people will wake up. We'll wake up. They call it woke now, but we are alive and we see. We are coming into a vision of ourselves. We are acknowledging our creator. We are acknowledging our ancestral history. We are acknowledging all those people who died on the ships, who jumped in the water to escape slavery. We are acknowledging, like the movie says, slavery with a new name. It is not just a new name, it's got a new mentality. See, their intelligence of us has returned. Now the white folks, and you can't just blame Dr. Santos, because you know that person who called herself a female, who is the governor of Arkansas now, has adopted.
We're going to that. We're going to go to that. But Dr. Gregory, speak a little bit about Hebrews to Negroes.
Hebrews to Negroes, a great book. I got the movie, I got the book. It is the most terrifying thing to the white public. They have tried to suppress it, but then there's so much hypocrisy about Hebrews and Negroes. Because you see, you can buy Hebrews and Negroes in its entirety, both DVD and book. And it's been sold for the last 15 years. It wasn't until NBA star Kyrie Irving happened to just give it a nice endorsement. Then the European Jews felt threatened. They felt under attack. Hebrews to Negroes, that woke up too many black people. It was an acknowledgement of who we are. But yet they have not told the owner of Amazon Books to take it down. And they won't take it down. It is their #1 seller. They're not going to take that book. They're not going to stop taking the book. But they want to punish black folks for reading. They want to discredit the book before black people. They want to put it out that it is a threat to their humanity. They are scared and they are paranoid.
Now, I think even Roland Martin wrote a book called White Fear.
Yes.
And that's what is happening now. We are coming to understand who we are, and now they want to cancel it out. Now, Dr. Gregory's talked a little bit about this thing is going to be contagious. Arkansas, we're going to go engineer and bring up the next film.
The Arkansas Department of Education will no longer recognize African American Studies as an advanced placement course. The change came just days before the new school year, leading to confusion and anger on social media. THV 11's Ian Russell spoke with state education leaders to find out why they made this decision.
Many of you have seen posts like this, a screenshot of an email sent to schools in Arkansas from the State Department of Education. That post shows a course, specifically Advanced Placement African American Studies, now listed as deleted. Online, you can still find it on the department's course code management system, with the caveat that it needs ADE approval for this year. Since then, there's been a lot of concern and confusion on social media, so we took that straight to the State Secretary of Education, Jacob Oliva. I spoke with him on the phone. He told me this is something the department has been discussing with school districts since January, following Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' executive order prohibiting indoctrination and critical race theory in schools. Oliva added that the main reason the course is now no longer considered for AP credit is a lack of teacher training, something that he doesn't expect to happen until next year. The department provided additional background, saying the AP African American Studies course is a pilot course first offered last year and is undergoing revisions. ADE also sent a statement reading, quote, "The department encourages the teaching of all American history and supports rigorous courses not based on opinions or indoctrinations." Many of you have also expressed concern at the fact that this happened just days before the new school year. I asked Oliva, why do that? And were there conversations that could have led to this decision being made earlier? He told me he didn't have a specific reason for that. And again, the discussions have been ongoing for months. We've reached out to multiple districts in Central Arkansas for their thoughts on this change, as well as many of our colleges and universities. A UALR spokesperson tells me they work closely with ADE to make sure they're aligned with the courses they accept, and that at this time, the course is not accepted, but that could be revisited in the future. Other schools say they're still looking into how this affects them. Back to you.
Ian, thank you. Some Arkansas schools are still offering African American history courses, but these are not advanced placement. Other courses such as European history, United States history, and world history modern are still offered under the AP program as, quote, vetted courses.
Okay. All right. To you, Dr. Edward Lee Johnson, what do you think about that? This thing is getting contagious. It's Florida, now it's Arkansas. Mississippi is right around the corner. Then guess what? Texas is right there. They've already started already. It's going to get contagious. And guess what? It's coming to every neighborhood, including yours and mine, if we do not take an active stand and say enough is enough. We do vote, and we've got to get more people registered. We got to take these people out of office that want to cancel our history. It's unfair to think that our kids are going to school and never know the history. You know, I was looking at some documents and they said, well, you know, they're going to ask the students, can you identify Rosa Parks? Not what she did. They're going to ask the students, can you identify Martin Luther King? Not what he did. They're not going to allow that to be taught. Dr. Edward Lee Johnson, what do you think about that? I think the church has got to step up. That's what I think.
The problem with the Black history education in America is that we teach history for Black people at the ending of an era for Black people. When you go back 400 years ago, that was the ending of our history. And what white people have done, they've taken the Bible, inserted themselves in the Bible, bastardized it, and since we didn't know who we were, we now turn around and allow them to teach us the Bible as if it's theirs. So we gotta break white supremacy down, and we gotta rip the blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jesus out of the pages of the Bible and get that image out of people's head, because the Bible is a book of Negroes. Now, the people who wrote it didn't call themselves Negroes. That's a Spanish term. But when you look at the Hamites and the Israelites in the Bible, they had the same phenotype. I can show you that all the way through scriptures. When you look at Joseph and his brothers, when his brothers came to Egypt to get food, they didn't know their own brother after he was gone for several decades. When you look at what happened to Moses, when he went to Midian after he fled from Egypt, he went and assisted what probably one of the women was his wives. But when the women got back home, the Jethro asked him, how'd you get back here so fast? They said, well, an Egyptian helps us. Then when you fast forward to the New Testament, Paul in Acts 21:38 is mistaken for an Egyptian. So if the color of the Hamites were a curse, which is what they used the Bible to bastardize, then the Israelites would be a curse, because you couldn't tell the difference between the two of them by reading the Bible. So we got to take this history back by getting this knowledge back in our head and owning our Bible. That's our Bible. They took They inserted themselves in the scriptures, and I teach you all of that in this book.
But then we've got to now take a stand and shut Florida down. Now, it was one person on that committee that said that he wanted to revisit what was written. He did say that. But guess what? We want them to take that out of the document. How can they tell us that slavery was a benefit? Now, there is a question that came from one of our viewers. Where is the accountability from church leaders for selling the whole Bible to our people in the way that it is? As a white Bible. Where is that accountability? We've been talking about accountability. The church really did not do what they were supposed to do by teaching us and our children who they really was. Now, the Jews teach their lineage, their heritage to each and every one of their children, whether liberal Jews, progressive Jews, or conservative Jews. But based upon our denominations of confusion, we don't teach our history to our kids. And we've got to start doing that.
We can't teach what we don't know. They don't know it.
Hey, they got to get it. They got to go to school and learn their history. Yeah. You've been teaching. I mean, we know that during slavery that the preacher, the pastor, was like the governor. He had the most power of anybody. We've got to take the power back, but we got to address these things that are happening in Florida and Arkansas. Dr. O.
I think his mic is muted.
Dr. O.
Yes. You can go back to, it's clear we have to look at the words of distinguished Dr. Carter G. Woodson. In his book in 1933, he wrote The Miseducation of the Negro. 1933. You can take that book, take out the word Negro, put in African American, and everything he said in that book is true today. Until we become serious about educating our own children and creating the institutions for the education, we'll continue be fed this malnourished education that has the purpose to the brother, some of you esteemed brothers will probably know the work of Dr. William Jones. Jones says that when you tell the oppressor that he's oppressing you, he will say that there is no oppression. You show them that there is oppression, then he'll say that it wasn't me. And then you show that, no, it is you. And then the last thing they'll say is that, okay, it is me. I will create a change. And this is where we're making a big mistake. We do not need a change. Dr. Jones taught us what we need is a correction. We have to correct the disabilities, the defects, all the damages that came from the original assault, of course, which was the kidnapping and the slavery. And the only way that can be done is that we have to give a macro solution to a macro problem and stop thinking that we can give a micro solution to a macro problem. The mathematics does not work. We have, which means this.
I want to come in.
It means that we have to understand that only through the thinking of reparations will begin to resuscitate our minds for the actions that's necessary to liberate our people.
Dr. O, what do you think we can do? I mean, just based on all the information you have and where you've been and you traveled to the United Nations, to many nations, what do you think we could do on these shores to stop what's going on in Florida and Arkansas and to move forward with our history for our children? What can we do?
It's been said very simple. You can't stop other people doing what they're doing. You have to assert your own culture. You have to build your own institutions. It's only through our people fully adopting the right of self-determination and the right of development, which is a United Nations document, only when our people will fully become politically mature, where we will demand a plebiscite so that we can say who we are, not just in terms of historical terms, but what is our political relationship to this country. You can't make someone a citizen. To say that the 14th Amendment made us a citizen is like me kidnapping a woman, raping her, and having babies, and 20 years later saying, you're my wife. No, we have to demand a plebiscite. Until we do that, as a people, we will be continually treated like the politically immature people that we are. What I'm saying is that we have to do, we have to understand the principle of self-determination and start to teach this to our people in all the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, any place we are, we have to teach, because if we don't teach that principle, and if we don't affirm the right of self-determination, other people will, in fact, will superimpose their laws on top of us.
Can I respond to that?
Now, my concern, yes, you can respond.
Yeah, the fundamental problem that we have in our communities all over America as people of color is we do not have relationship with each other. We're going after the white man one-on-one, but we got no relationship on our own turf, and that's our biggest problem. And that's one of the major things that I'm working on in our city, is to bring a network of people, and not just Black people. White people need to be a part of this truth, and they want to be a part, because all of them wasn't responsible for what happened to us. Some of them are on board. And so we got to get a network going on around our own front door. And that's our problem. We talk over each other. We won't sit down and talk to the table and build a relationship. And that's our weakness. And the devil knows that. And until we are willing to admit that, we can get on the YouTube and on television and talk on the high mountain. We're not going nowhere until we get the ground floor right.
Okay, but how can we stop what's going on, Dr. Edward Lee Johnson, right now? We need a right now solution. We can build schools, we can do various things, but we got to unify and help Florida and help Arkansas and stop this confusion, because it's going to take a minute and money, but we can still write letters, we can send emails, we can boycott, we can stop drinking Pepsi, we can stop drinking beer, we can stop doing something to bring a financial burden onto the state of Florida and Arkansas to get their attention. The Black sororities and fraternities, they're not going to participate in Florida. DeSantis is trying now to bring Disney back in line. We've got to have a right now problem fixer to get the solution in their face, to let them know we're not going to take it. That's what I'm talking about. Well, I know we could do a lot of other things. We could teach. Yeah, at the same time, we should be teaching, educating in our churches, in our organizations, but we've got to stop it now. Anyone want to respond to that?
I will. I would like to. Sister, thank you for reminding us of when we look at what happened in South Africa. It wasn't the goodness of their heart that white people decided to, push back and reverse apartheid. It was exactly what you said. Thank you so much for that. Yes, what we were boycotting, all people started boycotting all the products and services that came out of South Africa. I was talking about Portugal too as well. But that's what we have to do. We have to create a campaign that, because it's been said, you hit them in the pockets, they will change their mind and change their approach. So I would have to say that is the answer that we can do right now, is to start to say that, okay, you're gonna feel this, because if they don't feel any kind of reaction to what we're doing, if we can't interrupt the means of production, the way that they are making their money, if we can't interrupt that, they'll say that it's nothing. You're not hurting me in any kind of way. No, they need to feel some pain. I hear you, sister.
They got to feel pain. Go ahead.
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm saying both, and we have to do that as well. But if you remember 40 to 50 years ago, when we were doing the boycotting and we were doing the marching, and we hit Black folk in the pocket, We did do white folk in the pocket. Then after that, our own community got dismantled and we got disjointed and we lost ourselves in the process. So we rallied together 40 years ago, but you can't get two of us rallied together now to do anything because, again, we feel like we've arrived and there's no relationship anymore among us. And it starts in the pulpit. The pastors with all of these churches full of these members don't have relationships in their cities.
Yes. Doctor, I want to bring Dr. Payne in. I see him nodding his head. Dr. Payne, jump right in.
I agree with you. It starts at the head. If you got a good head, the body will follow. And that's where the church come in at. The leaders. We have to get them educated. A lot of pastors you may not know. So you get someone that knows the information that can give it to your congregation to help your congregation go. Then we can go out and work. But the leaders can't be up on a mountaintop and you're not there. You don't know everything. We have to be humble ourselves and work together. And that's one of the problems that we have in the churches today. We don't work together. We don't want to work with one another. I believe if we can work together, get the book that my brother's selling, get the book and pass it on to the congregation, pass it on to other people. We will learn so much. Then we can grow. But the thing is, people don't want to take heed to nobody, don't want to listen to no one. Everyone wants to be in charge. We cannot do that. We got to work together.
But Dr. Payne, but Pastor Payne, we got to leave them Negroes behind. It's time for us who want to move ahead and fight for this cause. Let me tell you, every slave didn't follow Harriet Tubman. There were some people Nat Turner had to do at the fence because he knew that they couldn't make it. We've got to do it for the rest of them. We have to do it for the rest. The lesser got to do it for the greater. And we've got to stop what's going on in Florida now, in Arkansas. It'll be Mississippi. It's going to take off. It's going to be Texas, and we're going to still be on the Zoom talking about things. We've got to hit them in the pocket. Let me tell you, when you hit the finances, that's when people pay attention. You let your check don't come in your mail or in your account 1 month. That makes you get up and go find out what is going on. That's the only thing people really, it's power and money and sex that rule this whole world. So we've got to hit them in the pocket, in the financial pocket, or else we're going to be like that city, Roseland, and all those other cities. They're going to erase us away a little bit at a time. And we're going to be sitting here on this Zoom saying, we're naming all these states that they've erased the history, and then it's going to be too late. Because once that wheel starts turning, it's hard to stop it. So while the wheel is going this way, let's bring it to a halt. If we know people in Florida in churches, let's contact them. Let's get with them. I'm inviting people on the line, and let's try to aggressively help the states that need it. We can't stand by and wait on the greater to step forward. We must step forward. We must push voters' registration. Do you know Black people are still one of the lowest vote? They don't even vote. They only come out when we're talking about a presidential voting. But we got to learn how to vote in our local communities, the local precincts that when we have local people running for office. We got to vote there. And the governmental races, we don't show up. We've got to teach that. Dr. Gregory Johnson, what do you got to say? Dr. Johnson.
Well, my sister, you have hit the head on a nail when you made that statement. We as a people have to do something. And it not only begins in the pulpit, it begins in the home. Our Black parents have to become educated about what's going on and how to teach their children. The late Malcolm X made a statement, and it's very, very profound. I always think about it. And he directed this, believe it or not, at the church. He says, you never ask the oppressor to teach your children. That is your job. When you go to the enemy to do what's right, he's just going to smile at you. He's going to give you something that's going to benefit him. See, the enemy is not going to give us anything that's going to benefit us. The enemy's agenda is first and foremost. Unfortunately, some of our parents are ignorant to many things within the Black culture. Some of our parents are still, and it's really surprising, I remember Dr. Francis Cress Wilson telling us one time, he says, what a lot of people don't understand and realize that we are still going through the trauma of slavery in this century. We are still hurting. It's a generational pass down. There are many Black people who are still scarred. Why do you think the youth are so angry? Why do you think they are so violent and now they're turning the violence against each other? And this is something that was orchestrated by the white man. He doesn't mind getting killed because, you know, we're killing more of our own people than they are. Now, we only hear about the white folks doing it, but we are also killing ourselves, and it's evolved on anger. Today's young people are very angry. And they're very angry. Look at the thing what's going on in Chicago and now in New York, in Detroit. Anger, it was systematically orchestrated by the CIA. A lot of people don't realize that. See, this thing is way bigger than we're thinking about. It's political. It's orchestrated by certain people in high office. This is not a local problem. This is an international problem.
But we've got to move past pointing the finger at them and point the finger at us and do something. Now, look what we allowed to take place. Engineer, bring up the next one. We allowed this. And we should be ashamed.
I've lost my name and I've lost my reputation. I've lost my sense of security, all because a group of people, starting with number 45 and his ally, Rudy Giuliani, decided to scapegoat me and my daughter, Shay, to push their own lies about how the presidential election was stolen.
We're just going to play the tape.
There is nowhere I feel safe. Nowhere. Do you know how it feels to have the president of the United States to target you? The president of the United States is supposed to represent every American, not to target one, but he targeted me, Lady Ruby, a small business owner, a mother, a proud American citizen who stand up to help Fulton County run an election in the middle of the pandemic.
Now, you heard it. This woman was working the polls, and the president, Donald Trump, targeted her, accused her of messing with the votes, and saying that was one of the reasons why he didn't get elected. Now, for the statement, and you could Google this and look this up, he sent a Black man to her house to tell her that if she didn't get in line, that guess what? Some body harm could go and be done to her and her daughter. And he did this to a lot of Black electoral workers during the presidential race. And we did nothing to protect our own. We got what we call Black Trumpers. That means that Black people that are still supporting Donald Trump after he did this to our people. Now, I'm going to let you go, Dr. O. We can't even speak up and get this straight. Now, and we're asked to work on Florida. What do you think about what Donald Trump is doing to Black people and Black women? Tisha James, Willis over in Georgia, the DA. DeSantis fired the DA in Florida. He fired him. And guess what? They're coming against all. The judge has been threatened in the Trump case. What do you think about that?
You know, it says that if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. We can go back and we can look at any era, but I'll just look at the end of Black Reconstruction, the Tilton Hayes Compromise in 1887. And that was the end of Black Reconstruction when the Republicans and Democrats made a deal that the Republicans would get the White House and the Democrats would go back and terrorize our people. They've always been the backlash. What we're witnessing is the backlash of the audacity of a Black man to even think about running for president not only becoming president, but becoming a president for 2 terms. Do you know that that is the number one thing that these white people are so upset about? They are saying there has to be a response. There's the I was at the National Association of Black Sociologists convention in Philadelphia. I was at the convention for the last 3 days, and the last presentation was from this sister who now, and the brother had mentioned it earlier, slavery and post-traumatic slave syndrome, right? But now there's a counter or the complement to understand what she is calling post-traumatic master syndrome. Post-traumatic master syndrome, where white people feel entitled, in fact, beyond privilege, but they inside of them, they feel that there could be no other world than the world that they've created through their plunder and through their egregious human rights violations. And anytime you threaten their authority, of which they have established for 400 years, anytime you threaten that and you bump up against it, it actually creates a visceral response inside them for them to react. So we have to use the new information we have about our internalized oppression and internalized trauma, and to start to heal ourselves. And we have to speak about how they've been traumatized as well. No, we're not going to win everybody on our sides, but what she said, she's working with 300 top white executives that really want to engage in the process of anti-racism. So best of times, worst of times, this thing is complicated. There's so many aspects to what's happening right now, and we have to hold on to the aspects that's going to lead us to our freedom. The new president, the new elected president of the Association of Black Sociologists, a sister out of New Orleans, she said, "I am creating freedom seekers. I'm looking for any kind of pathway that's going to get me to the freedom." Right. So she's coming in. So now it's a time to galvanize all our Black organizations, National Association of Black Social Workers, Association of Black Psychologists, Association of Black, whatever.
Black lawyers, nurses, everybody.
We all got to come at the table together. And the brother, I don't know his name. The brother on my screen is to the left, was really hitting it. He said this division, right, that has happened to us through a 1954 Brown versus Board, right? That was one of the worst things that could have happened to us, because we gave up everything. All the institutions that we had been building for the last at least 200 years, we lost all those institutions, and now we are like orphans just running around the earth with nothing. And the only thing we have is each other and God. That's the only thing we have is each other and God. And until we do that, until we reclaim ourselves, reclaim God in our work, we will continue to be orphans. So I agree with that, brother. It is about the healing. This is something what is called social ecology. And my studies have taught me that, okay, we lost the military war, but we also lost the cultural psychological war. So we have to read people like Amos Wilson. We have to read people like Bobby Wright. We have to read people, our scholars, who've been able to really give us the full breadth of it. So I agree with him. It is about collecting. It's about creating those positive relationships. In fact, what my doctor was on was doing that very thing, bringing families together at the same time, 3, 4, 5 families in the same room at the same time to go through a process which I call the healing well process. So I am with him and would like to work with him on that project.
Yes, and let me just say something. We are getting ready to go off. We had a great conversation. We want our viewers to share. We're going to be back because we're going to talk about what segregation was. Should we have stayed segregated in our educational systems, or was integration the best thing for us? We're going to talk about those hard subjects. We're going to come back and talk about Florida and Arkansas. I'm going to invite those people on. One word from you, Dr. Payne. What would you like to leave everybody with? Very quick.
Accountability.
One word, Dr. Johnson. What would you like to leave people with?
Well, I can't use one word, but I can say this. We have
No, not you, Dr. Johnson. Not you, Dr. Gregory.
The one word I would like to leave is righteousness.
Righteousness. Now back to you, Dr. Edward Johnson. Tell us how to get your book.
Yes. You can go to zulonpress.com. You can go to walmart.com. You can go to amazon.com. You can go to booksamillion.com. You can go to Barnes & Noble. All of the major book chains, my books are there. But I was going to close with this. We have to understand that this is spiritual. We're not fighting flesh and blood. This is a spiritual warfare. And one of the biggest mistakes we made when we brought in a Black presidential candidate is that we've allowed the homosexual agenda to hijack civil rights movement. And this is one of the major things we got going on with a lot of these white conservatives, because they lump all of this stuff in one basket, and we got to get our purity back. We're not fighting for homosexual rights. We're fighting for righteousness, and we're not against homosexuals, but this is a spiritual warfare, and we got to understand that that's what our warfare is. That's what got us in this hole that we're in now, because we violated our spiritual covenant with God. That's what Hebrews to Negroes is about. We violated that covenant, and we got to get that back. And that's going to be our saving grace, is getting out of that hole, is to get our knowledge back of who we are and get our morals back.
You heard it. You heard it, community. We want you to go out. We want you to purchase the books. The engineers to go. Dr. Edward Lee put it in the chat. We're going to push the book. We want everybody to read the book and Hebrews to Negro. And you heard the different books. Panel, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. This is War Cry for our people, War Cry for democracy and community, War Cry against gang violence, and War Cry for the church to galvanize and push forward. We've got to win this one. This one we've got to win, because our legacy, our children are depending on us. Thank you. This is War Cry, another great adventure we had. Not politically correct, but guess what? God correct. We want to make you move. Church, come on. Let's join Florida. Stop drinking sodas. Stop doing some of that stuff that brings income and revenue into Florida. Let's let DeSantis open his eyes. Go back and change it, Dr. DeSantis. And Dr. William Allen, we want you on War Cry. See you later, everybody. Thank you, host. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is War Cry.
That's the book.
That's the book. Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Type it in the chat. Dr. Johnson, type it in the chat. Type it in, because we want to broadcast it every day. All right. I love you guys. Gun violence. Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our Black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up. Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry, galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry, cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is war cry. Let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is war cry, home of the land, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is war cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is war cry.